You are a toy! You aren't the real Buzz Lightyear. You're an action figure. You are a child's plaything.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Farewell. All right, folks, I'm Nathan.
And I'm Tyler.
Welcome to Ignore the Bell. Today we are talking all things Tom Hanks, although not exactly all things Tom Hanks, because that's too many things, but many things
It's
Tom
true.
Hanks. All
Yes.
right,
Right.
enjoy.
Oh man, I wish this discussion could go on forever.
Ignore the bell. We're gonna keep going, people.
Okay, so we are talking all things Tom Hanks, or like I say, many things Tom Hanks. According to IMDb, he has got 88 acting credits.
Wow. Wow. And
I,
that's and he has done other things in addition to
oh
acting.
yeah, like then you could get into him being a producer, and I think he's done some directing as well.
Yeah,
And
he did that thing you do.
right,
Um,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. So obviously, we're talking about somebody who has been as prolific as Tom Hanks. It is very tough to, like, we cannot exhaustively go through his catalog. I mean, we barely made our way through Tim Burton's catalog last week,
Yeah.
where I mean, and that was still only talking about, what is that, like 20 movies or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, something like that.
and so
Maybe
this is
not even 20, but yeah.
right. Yeah, and that was a challenge to get through because there was still plenty more that we could have said about Tim Burton. That was not covering every movie he's done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I figured that I would like to try looking at things from a slightly different perspective. So what we've done so far on the podcast is we've really mostly looked at writers and directors and tried to group films together in that way.
Mhm.
And there's so many different aspects to studying film that you can come at it from this whole other angle of, let's look at an actor who's working with a variety of writers, a variety of directors and producers and studios, and see what comes out when we take a focused look at kind of the beginning and getting up to the present, and just see what happens when we're studying it in this way.
Yeah, yeah, and we will probably do more of these actor studies as well. Yeah, I can already think of some that we might want to do in the future. Nick Cage comes to mind because he's
Oh, that'd be a
fascinating
great
to
one.
study.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I've got lots to say about Nicolas Cage. I really do. So let me start by going over some of the highlights from his career, and we're just looking at his acting credits. So
Yes, Tom Hanks again.
Tom Hanks, this is who we're focusing on.
Yes.
So again, let me just explain. We cannot possibly get to all of them. I'm not even going to list all of his acting credits. And because some of them are short films, some of them are just small little appearances here and there. So we're not talking about 88 feature-length films. But
Right.
according to IMDb, as a producer, he has 56 credits. As an actor, he has 88. Under the soundtrack category, he's got 15. As a writer, he's got 7 credits. As a director, he's got 8 credits. And
Wow.
now, if we're looking at him as an actor, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. The first one, he was on The Love Boat, apparently, one episode of
Huh.
that TV series from the 80s. Uh, and then he had
Can I get
the
anybody a drink?
right.
That's all I know about it.
I know
That's all I
very
know about
little
that show.
about The Love Boat. I just know the name.
Yeah.
And then he had the sitcom Bosom Buddies. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
No.
that was on TV for several years, for 3 years. There was 37 episodes. There was him and Kip Wilson. I feel like I would recognize Kip Wilson if I saw him, but I don't know the name. In any case, and he was a comedic actor. At least that's how he got his start. He was on Taxi, which is a TV series, which had like Andy Kaufman, and I think Danny DeVito was on Taxi as well, and
Mhm.
some other big names. He apparently was on an episode of Happy Days. He was on an episode of Family Ties. And then this is really when it changed. He was in the movie Splash. He starred in the movie
Right.
Splash. Uh,
Yes. directed by Ron Howard, I believe.
I think so. Yeah, and that's not the only Ron Howard film that he's been in. Let me just double check on that. Yeah, that was Ron Howard who directed that. So there's Splash, Bachelor Party, I'm not familiar with. The Money Pit from 1986. Have you seen The Money Pit?
Yes, I have. I actually just watched it, I think last year. So.
Oh, okay, great. I'd like to talk about that. So we'll come back to this. Big from 1988.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, The Burbs from 89. Turner and Hooch from 89. Joe versus the Volcano. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay, I think that is a real under the radar movie that he's done that I think doesn't really get very much attention. And it's a fun one. I really like that. So I'd like to talk about that after I finish getting through all of this.
For sure.
He was apparently on an episode of Tales from the Crypt, the HBO series. Yeah, I'd like to watch that.
Yeah.
A League of Their Own, great baseball movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sleepless in Seattle, 1993. I think everybody knows him from that.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia in 93. As best I remember, he won Best Actor, the Oscar for that. I want to say. I'm pretty sure. Are you familiar with
that film?
Yeah. I know. I sadly have not seen it, and it's considered to be one of his best performances. And it's basically he plays a man who has HIV or AIDS. I'm not sure if it's actually turned into AIDS at this point. And then he challenges, I think it's his employer who fires him or something like that for having AIDS. And then it gets challenged. And then I think it's Denzel Washington who plays his lawyer who's representing him, who is defending his right to be employed. That it's a type of discrimination. And it's apparently really powerful. And so, yeah, I mean, it's something that I feel like I should see. I think that it's an important film and certainly an important Tom Hanks film. Mm-hmm. But it's also not one of those that it's like, I'll just throw Philadelphia on. It's, it's pretty heavy. So that's not something that I think you come to lightly. 94, Forrest Gump, which
brilliant.
I mean,
we will probably do an entire episode just on Forrest Gump.
For the longest time of my life, and I think it still depends on which day you ask me, then if you say what is my favorite film of all time, Forrest Gump is always at the top of my list.
Yeah.
Apollo 13, 1995, that's another Ron Howard film.
Yeah.
Toy Story, 1995.
Really? I don't know if I've heard of that one.
Right. What a year for him. 95, Apollo 13, and Toy Story.
Oh my goodness.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he is truly prolific. He is coming out with things all the time, multiple projects going on at once. I mean, even I think you've said there were two different projects, two different films that came out in '89 as well. And it's incredible, honestly.
Yeah, both The Burbs and Turner and Hooch, which both continue to be popular.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's I mean, that's the interesting thing about him is that he not only is prolific, but he's prolific and also provides, I think, probably more consistently than any other actor, an incredible performance. And it's this is not prolific like Nicolas Cage has become prolific, where it's ooh, that was bad. Ooh, that was bad. Or Samuel L. Jackson, where it's just how are you one human being?
Right.
How is it possible that you are in this many films? And Samuel L. Jackson, he'll occasionally do sillier stuff, like Snakes on a Plane, and
and he also does a lot of smaller roles in films compared to Tom Hanks, who is almost always the headliner, as it were.
Yeah, and that is I think a big distinction, because there's lots of actors who have got way more credits than this, but it's exactly as you say, they're much smaller roles, which means you're only on the set for maybe a few days, if that. But this is something where he is committing to weeks and weeks and weeks of shooting, and that when
Yeah.
he's able to develop these characters all within a year, that he can do multiple leading performances within a year, it's really incredible.
Yeah.
That Thing You Do, 1996.
Hmm.
Saving Private Ryan, 1998.
It's sad to admit I have not yet watched that.
Oh wow. Well, you're in for a treat when you do. I mean, it's not as heavy as Philadelphia, I don't think. Like, this is me not having seen Philadelphia, but it's a powerful film as well, right?
Yeah,
And
I
it's
own it too, and I just have not
Oh,
gotten, because again, it's one of those things where it's like, well, it's not something that I'm just gonna pop in and spend
no.
2.5 hours watching.
Right. Yeah, that is not a casual thing to watch.
Yeah, yeah.
You've Got Mail, 1998. Toy Story
Mhm.
2, 99. The Green Mile, 99. Castaway, 2000. And that was not me skipping anything. That literally is what he just did.
Oh my goodness.
He just went, like, in order: Saving Private Ryan, You've Got Mail, Toy Story 2, The Green Mile, Castaway.
Because they're so wildly different in terms of tone and oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then
That's
even continuing on directly, Band of Brothers, which is a mini series about soldiers in World War II, American soldiers in World War
right.
II. Road to Perdition, 2002. Catch Me If You Can, 2002. Like,
Wow.
I don't know. Do you think that he sold his soul to the devil, and it was just like, in
He sold
exchange
it
for
to
your
the
soul?
Zoltar machine.
Right,
From
right.
Pig.
Yes, exactly. It's really incredible. This is why I wanted to talk about Tom Hanks, because even just doing this, just casually going through his list of
Yeah.
acting credits and really focusing, you're just saying, how is this possible? Who
Right.
is this
Yeah.
guy? The Lady Killers, 2004. The Terminal, 2004. Elvis Has Left the Building. I don't know that one. Polar Express, 2004. That was a Zemeckis
Wow.
film, was it not?
That's I believe so. And that was 3 films in one year?
Yep. 4.
Wow. 4. Oh my goodness.
The Lady Killers, The Terminal, Elvis Has Left the Building, Polar Express.
Wow.
Although, to be fair, he probably filmed the Polar Express the year before, because with it
Yeah, that's true.
animated and the way, but yeah, because
Yeah.
I was just, but how did weren't they doing like motion capture
I
on
think
that?
they were, but they would have done motion capture and then had to animate everything that they
Right,
had recorded with him. So
right.
yeah, yeah. Still though.
Cars from 2006.
Oh yes, he did have a brief
Yeah, it says
appearance in that.
Woody Car. Woody Car. Does he play?
Yes.
I don't even know what this is. I've seen Cars. Does he play Woody?
It's during the credits. They go
Oh,
to the drive-in movies and they watch all the other Pixar films.
oh,
Um,
right. Okay. That's
yes, and
hilarious
then
that they actually got him to do it.
yeah, and then you've got what's his name? John Ratzenberger, um, who's watching all these films. He's noticing the same actor playing all these different roles in each of the different. Wait a second, they just got this, and it's of course him. Like
That's awesome. That is awesome. Oh, okay.
possibly my favorite part of that film, but
Right. The Da Vinci Code, 2006.
hmm.
The Simpsons Movie, 2007.
Oh yes, I
He
forgot
apparently
about
did his own voice in this. He played Tom Hanks in this.
Yes, he did.
I haven't seen the Simpsons movie in a while, so I forgot about that. Charlie Wilson's War, 2007. The Great Buck Howard, I don't know that. Angels and Demons, which is the sequel to The Da Vinci Code, that's 2009.
Is it a sequel or prequel?
Oh, I
get
don't know.
confused by
It's
that. I think the
it's
film might be a sequel, but the original book was a prequel.
Oh, okay. You might be right. I actually have not read the books, so but
But
I
both
say,
of those are more Ron Howard, I believe. So
oh, could be. Yeah. And I only say actually just because I do read a lot, and I've seen the film, and I typically I would say more often than not, then if it's really big like that, very commercial, then I'll typically read the book and watch the film. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was Ron Howard who did the Da Vinci Code.
Cool. Yeah.
Toy Story 3, 2010.
Hmm. And
Larry,
another incredible performance there.
yeah. Larry Crown, 2011 with Julia Roberts. I feel like he directed that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Let me
I
just
I
double.
thought that it was called the Larry Crown Affair. Is that
That's
not?
a whole other movie, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Or the Thomas Crown Affair, I think is the.
Oh, okay. I'm getting things confused. It's
Yeah. And Tom Hanks did direct that. Larry
okay.
Crown.
Cool.
I'm just kind of skipping over Cloud Atlas. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah,
I
I'm
know
not
the
even
name.
really sure what it is. I've seen trailers and promotional stuff for it, and I still don't really know what it is.
Yeah, same. I think that's why, because as best I understand, it did not do very well, but it was expected to do really well because it
Mm.
sounds like something epic that we should all be excited about.
Right.
And I think everyone's like, I don't understand what this is.
Yeah.
Captain Phillips, 2013. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Me
No.
neither. And I know that's one that people reference all the time. I'm the
Yeah.
captain now. And
Right. Yeah. And he was playing a real person in that. Captain
right.
Phillips was a real person. So.
Yes, exactly. And that's not the only time that he's done that because we're coming up to another one where he's done that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Saving Mr. Banks. That's,
Yes, where he played Walt Disney.
yeah. Have you seen that?
Yes, and I
Is it?
really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, I have not seen this. Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of marketed as like um the story of how Walt Disney uh made Mary Poppins. It's more about how he was able to make it, if that
Mm,
makes sense, because it's about him and the author P.L. Travers, um, doing all sorts of going back and forth on the negotiations because P.L. Travers was very very protective over the Mary Poppins series, and
okay.
she didn't want it to be made, and she didn't
Mm,
want Walt Disney to be making it. She was like, there can't be any animation and all this, and
huh.
anyway, it's really really interesting to see. Yeah, I really really enjoyed it. Um,
Okay. Yeah, I kind of occasionally it's funny how this happens. Occasionally a film will come by and it totally passes me. I'm not even familiar with it. And I'm just like,
right. Yeah.
wow, that sounds interesting. How did I not know about that? Like I haven't seen a trailer, haven't even heard the name. It's
Right.
so funny. I'm like, what was going on in my life for those few months where this was really going on?
Yeah, I mean that was like kind of a smaller film. I mean it's a biopic, so it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because that is interesting. Because I think if you're looking at trends within his career, you're starting to see these biopics start to show up.
Yeah.
Because I mean, while he's done that before, like Apollo 13 is one of them. I don't know if Saving Private Ryan was based off of a true story or not, but yeah, absolutely. You get Captain Phillips, Saving Mr. Banks. I'm just kind of jumping ahead here to kind of focus on that part. Sully. I don't know if you've seen
Yes.
that. Oh,
I
you
have
have?
not seen it,
Okay.
but I am aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen that. The Post, I believe that's based off of a true story.
Mm,
And then coming up this year, he is playing Fred Rogers in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That's yeah, that's going to be really really interesting.
I think there's no way, like we've seen this happen like within the last week or so. There's no way anybody can take on a Robin Williams role without there being an outrage. Like Will Smith, as charismatic as he is, no, you cannot be the genie. And it's like, but with Mr. Rogers, I think if anybody can do it, I think it's Tom Hanks.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, because he does have this lovable quality to him.
He really does.
This
Um,
charisma that's it's not a sexual or romantic charisma. It's just you are enamored by him.
Yes.
Yeah, you just see him and you're like, oh, he's just a sweetheart. And
Right.
it's incredible the way that he's able to maintain that.
Yes, and that's actually what I really want to talk about. I was thinking of like, what do I want to talk about with this? And that is exactly it. Is what kind of roles is he playing? How does he do it? Why does everybody like him? Like, how is he
Right.
accomplishing this?
Yeah.
But let me just finish off here because we're almost through. It's gonna be the full hour. Just and these are just highlights. I'm skipping like easily 50%. Bridge of Spies is 2015. Ithaca is 2015. A Hologram for the King. I don't even know that one. 2016. Sully, 2016. I have seen that. Inferno, which is another Dan Brown adaptation,
Right.
like the Da Vinci
Yeah.
Code. Inferno. The Circle, 2017, which is I think that's a Dave Eggers book.
Okay.
I have not seen that. Have you?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, that's got what? Emma Watson, I think, is in that.
Oh, okay. Huh. Yeah, I mean, as we said, like he's done so many films that it's
Yeah.
impossible for us to have seen
Yeah.
all of them.
The Post, 2017, him and Meryl Streep were in that.
Hmm.
And then this year, he's got two films that are going to come out this year, at least two films, although it looks like three. There's Greyhound, which has got a 2019 date, but it doesn't even have a poster on
Okay.
IMDb.
Yeah.
Toy Story 4, 2019.
Yes.
And then,
Yeah.
like I say, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, 2019, playing Fred Rogers. I mean, like, this is incredible. You go back to 89, and he's doing iconic performances. And this
Yeah.
is literally 30 years later, and he is still doing this. Like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what do you think? Okay, this is a question. This is a question I want to start with. Do
Mhm.
you think that his banking institution has to have a special account for all of the zeros after his account numbers? Like, I mean, to make one after the other, after the other, after the other that are all as popular as they are and consistently for like 30
Right.
plus years. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
whew,
Yeah. He has managed to have both critical and audience like
critical
yeah
and
approval
commercial and audience.
success, yeah,
Yeah,
through these 30 years, as you said. Like that's it's I I don't even know like how he would spend an average day, like
right. Isn't this a great question? It's like,
yeah,
who is this guy and how is he doing this? I mean, because I'll give you an
yeah,
example. I've been watching. I've watched a couple Kevin Costner movies in the last couple days, and so in part because spring training is starting up, so it's baseball season, and so I like to watch Bull Durham most years around this time of the year. So Bull Durham is a great baseball movie from 1988 with Susan Sarandon and Kevin Costner, and so I rewatched it, and then I'm almost finished. I've been rewatching Dances with Wolves.
mm,
And this is a time period, the early 90s, then while Tom Hanks was, topping the box office again and again, Kevin Costner was, you know, a leading man, and it just seemed like he could do no wrong. And it was just one film after the other. And then it just kind of, you know, very quickly, uh, people didn't take him as seriously, and in part because he made Waterworld, and then he did The Postman, and these were like, The Postman was a film that he wrote and directed, and people did not like it. And he didn't write, but he directed Dances with Wolves and starred in it. And to just see that of like how difficult it is, and for somebody who gets embraced by Hollywood, by audiences, commercially, critically successful, because Costner won the Academy Award for Dances with Wolves. It won like every award in 1990, like
right, yeah,
actor, director, writer, soundtrack, like everything. And
right,
to see that he wasn't able to continue making either casting choices, like choosing good roles, or just the his performance or his directing, his writing, like just he
Right.
wasn't able to maintain that consistency of knowing what do audiences enjoy and just doing high quality films. Like he just
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah. And it's I mean, it's I think it's partly because, Tom Hanks is able to hop into all these different genres, all these
Yeah.
different kinds of roles and tones. Like as we said, like he's doing more biopics now
Yeah.
compared to when he started, where he was doing a lot more comedies.
Yeah.
But it is very unusual when you're looking at actors. Occasionally then you will have some, comedic actors who branch out into more serious roles. But usually the trend has been that you can sort of define the actor by the decade
Yep.
that they were in.
Yep.
And with Tom Hanks, it's just nope.
Right.
He's just
That's what I'm saying.
like
It is
he's not like
astounding.
I mean he defines all these all the
Yes.
decades that he's worked in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally 80s, 90s, early 2000s, 2010s,
yeah,
and it with no end in sight.
right. Yeah,
And he's not riding the coattails of his earlier career. He's not just doing sequels. Like he is still coming back to like Toy Story, but
right.
he's still doing new and different things.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's part of, probably like part of what motivates him is just thinking like, okay, well, what can I do next? Like how can I keep growing in my acting ability
Right.
and everything, because I feel like he does challenge himself with a lot of these roles. I mean,
Yeah.
he does accents in some of them. Like Catch Me If
Yeah.
You Can, he's got a pretty substantial Boston accent, I think.
Right. In
And then Forrest
the
Gump,
Terminal,
yeah, yeah, the Terminal. Oh
and
yeah,
it's like an Eastern European accent.
right, yeah,
Like, because I think it's
um,
from a country that doesn't actually exist, but it's like some kind of like Eastern European type of accent.
yeah, 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 and then even in the Lady Killers, which I have seen and is uh it's an interesting film. I wasn't prepared for it going into it. I didn't know what it was or whatever.
Okay.
But you hear, oh, it's got Tom Hanks in it.
Right.
But it's I believe it's a Coen Brothers film. So that
Oh.
that sort of gives you a sense of like, the kind of awkward tone that it has.
Well, the Coen brothers are like, oh, trying to pin them down on what kind of movies they make is, you are
Right.
right. That is, yeah, Joel and Ethan Coen, directors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a very different film, I would say, in Tom Hanks' filmography. But he
Hmm.
does a southern accent in that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or, I mean, Forrest Gump, then he's
right,
doing a Southern accent, but that's even more challenging because not only is he doing a Southern accent, but he's also doing this from a man who is mentally disabled.
right. Yeah,
Uh, I mean, like, I
yeah,
think that would be a fair way of describing him. At the very least, a man who has a very low IQ.
right. Yeah, yeah. No, it's uh, yeah, and he's able to do all these roles with a level of grace and
Yes.
he's not going for the low hanging fruit with any of
No.
these things. He's very much embracing that these are real people
Yeah.
and they have lived their entire life this way. They're
Yeah.
like with Forrest Gump specifically, like he's not you know doing really stupid things
No.
in the film. He's
He's
just
not playing it for laughs by any means. And
right.
even like the few parts that are kind of funny, seeing like there's a little bit of irony that you catch as a viewer when Forrest is doing certain things. Uh,
Right.
but you see that Forrest, like he's not taking advantage of this type of character.
Mhm.
That yeah, we're not laughing really at Forrest, right? We're kind
Right.
of laughing with him, even if he wouldn't entirely understand the joke.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's not cruel, it's not mockery. Like there's no mockery in that film.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean it is handled with care, and yeah, but it is really incredible though, the range that Tom Hanks has. Again, going from, comedies and romantic comedies specifically,
Yeah,
in the 90s. I
yeah,
mean, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've had to think through, wait, was that one Sleepless in Seattle, or was that You've Got Mail? Like,
right, right.
and but he was perfect for those roles because he was, the nice guy over there who's,
Yeah,
you know, the one that the women end up with or whatever, the
yeah,
one that every woman wants.
yeah,
Um, and then, yeah, and now he's just really trying to be like, okay, everybody knows who Tom Hanks is. Let me try to be different people. Like,
yeah,
let me
yeah,
try to be Walt Disney, the man that everybody loved, but didn't know as well as they would have liked, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
this is how I want to try to approach this, and then we'll start getting into some of our favorite performances. I think that's probably the best way of doing this. So
Okay.
I think the key question for me is, what is it about Tom Hanks that makes him so good? And I like you've been answering this question, and I think for me, I think the key term here is he delivers performances with sincerity. That
Yes.
in
Yeah.
an age when there is so much irony and sarcasm like that defines the postmodern age of like trying to play something straight, like there's so many um parodies and spoofs and pastiche to some degree is like not
Yes.
playing it entirely sincere, right? That you're doing these
Yeah.
little throwbacks to things, and it's just very few people. I mean, like you can see this, and I know that this might sound like a very strange comparison, but even in Marvel, like a lot of like the MCU films are not playing it straight. There's too much comedy for it to be a sincere performance. But Tom
Right.
Hanks, again and again and again, everything about basically, I'm trying to think of you know performances where he isn't bringing that level of sincerity to it. That he is. Um, Even
Yeah.
when he's being funny, then it is a recognizable kind of comedy. It's not slapstick. It's not
Right.
absurd. It's always
He is a
grounded.
person, and
Yes.
and that's incredible to see. So many actors are trying to act,
Yes.
and Tom Hanks is trying to be
Yes,
whatever character.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
would say that, you hear, I don't know whether we use this term or not, but you hear the idea of, the girl next door, but he is very
Mhm.
much the boy next door. Like,
Yes.
you believe, like, with basically every performance, you're like, oh, I could be neighbors with that guy. Like, I know
Right.
who that
Yeah.
is. I recognize him as a real human being, not as this bigger than life character that you only see in Hollywood cinema. But everything is just it's so recognizable of, oh, I know who that is. I believe that that's a real person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even that carries over into, when you see him doing interviews, like, whether it be on the red carpet or on late night talk shows, like he is just very casual about
Yeah.
everything. He's very open about just, this is who I am. I'm having fun, and not in a, nobody can do anything because I'm so fancy, so I can do whatever I want. It's
Right.
more in just like the, hey, we're two friends getting together. We're
Yeah.
talking, we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's yeah, he lets the other person be a person as well. He
Yeah.
invites that conversation.
That's
Um,
exactly it. And I mean, if you think about this with some of the other really prominent actors that are contemporaneous with Tom Hanks, then you hear about some of their attitudes on set, and I've never heard a bad thing about Tom Hanks on set. I'm not saying that he hasn't ever had bad moments, because maybe he has, but I'm saying I've never heard of any. And with as many
Yeah.
credits as he has, it's hard to believe that that is a streak that he has within him. But I mean, if
Right.
you look at like somebody like Sean Penn, I mean, Sean Penn did start his career by doing some funny roles, like, Bill and Ted's whatever adventure. I can never remember the name of the movie, but
Yeah,
him
Bill
and
and Ted's
Keanu Reeves.
Excellent Adventure.
Yeah, like playing like, this like stoner guy, but it's like he doesn't want to talk about that. If people
Oh,
ask
is
him
that
that, like,
him? Oh,
oh, maybe
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
getting all
yeah,
mixed
yeah.
up.
No, I think you're right. I'm getting
Well, that's
totally
the thing,
thrown
is
off.
because
Yeah.
we don't associate it with him, because he has disassociated himself from that. He literally doesn't want to talk about it. He wants
Right.
to be taken seriously. I'm Sean Penn, and I have very serious opinions about politics and about how the world should function and about
Yeah.
journalism and about my career. And Tom Hanks just has never had that attitude. And if anybody should have an ego in Hollywood, you would think it'd be Tom Hanks, but he doesn't seem to have that. Or,
Yeah.
like Russell Crowe's, in a similar way, or even oh, what is his name? Christian Bale has had some meltdowns on set, and it seems like he takes himself pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not saying like that's not a knock. I'm saying I don't understand. Like, you look at like professional athletes who rise to the very, very top, and when people are paying you tens of millions of dollars for what you do, and you know that you are better than basically anybody else on planet Earth, I don't understand how that doesn't change you in some way, and how, like, as a human being, how does that not corrupt you to some degree where you just have bad moments? Um,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's like, how is Tom Hanks impervious to bad moments?
Yeah. No, I know. It is incredible. I mean, you hear the stories all the time in Hollywood about, people talking about other actors or directors or whatever and being like, "Oh yeah, he's such a nice person." And sometimes you're like, "Okay, yeah, I guess I believe that." But with Tom Hanks, you're just like, "Yep, I know."
Yeah.
Like, I don't even
Yes.
feel like people need to say that. Like,
No.
it's just everybody just kind of knows that he's
Right.
it's-
Right.
yeah. Yeah, no, I know. It is incredible how he has maintained his own identity
Yeah.
through through all of the Hollywood system.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that I can think of who, uh, is can match up in a similar way. It's incredible. So
Mhm.
let's start, because we're just going to keep this to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to try. Let's just look at some of our favorites. So I imagine that your favorite Tom Hanks performance has got to be Woody, right?
Yeah,
In
I think
Toy
so.
Story.
Yeah, either that or Forrest Gump,
Okay.
because he does a fantastic job. Um, but yeah, he he signed on to Toy Story, which was the first ever full-length computer-generated film.
Hmm.
Uh, and nobody really knew if it would do anything, you
Hmm.
know? And at this time, like mid 90s, then he was a very successful actor already, like very,
Yeah.
very well known. And for him to, step into this role in this animated film using a new kind of system and everything, and
Right.
and take on this role of a jealous cowboy doll.
Right.
Like,
That you
that's his
still somehow,
character.
right, you are right, yes, that like he is very much like the antagonist in this film, like
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
you can look at it
And
and say like Buzz Lightyear maybe is, but he's not, because he's not a usurper, right?
right.
That,
Yeah.
like, that's not his fault that Andy wants to have that new fun space toy.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, I could talk about Toy Story all day,
Me
but
too. I'm realizing this. I'm like, oh no, we're just gonna talk about this.
because like in earlier drafts then of Toy Story, then they actually had well, for one thing, then they had Woody being a ventriloquist doll. Um,
Huh.
and then they changed that. But in other
Because he
drafts,
would have been gigantic compared to all the other toys.
right, yeah. But yeah, and then they did have other drafts where he did come across as more villainous, more
Right.
of the antagonist, where he was outright like not quite trying to kill Buzz, but definitely had some darker moments and
Right.
things that you could see in those early versions
Yeah.
that they had to keep toning down. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's Toy Story is almost a film without a villain for the first two acts.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until you get the guy from Bandersnatch. Have you seen the memes of that?
No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness, how do you not know this? That
Oh, I think I have seen one actually. Yes,
what's the
that's right.
neighbor boy's name?
Well, in Toy Story, then it's Sid.
Sid.
Sid. Phillips.
Yes, that the guy in Bandersnatch, like he looks just like a grown-up version of Sid. Maybe I shouldn't say that
You
because
put a
apparently
skull T-shirt on him, and it's him. Just
that's right. That's exactly it. You put the little glasses on him, and it's like, oh my goodness, he came to life. So anyway, um, yeah. So Sid, like until you get Sid, then you don't really have a villain or an antagonist.
right, and yet there's still all this tension between
Oh
Tom
yeah,
Hanks and Tim Allen, and
yeah,
I mean, Tim Allen does a phenomenal job, but he's playing, this character who doesn't know what's going on.
right,
Like he's not fighting back. He's
right,
not doing anything. And yet Woody is able to, he is very much the antagonist, or Mr. Potato Head. I've seen that theory out there too, and you can kind of rewatch it and look at that.
yeah,
But no, and Tom Hanks just does a fantastic job of having this be a character that, you know, I mean, I had a Sheriff Woody doll,
mm,
and
right,
it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, no, I love this toy. He's awesome. Like
yes,
I he was, my friend. Like, you got a friend in me. Like, come
yeah,
on, you're my
yeah,
favorite deputy. Like
right,
those lines and the differences between the delivery of those lines that are pre-programmed in his voice box with the
yeah,
ones that are actually how Woody feels. Like even that is incredible. It's so well done, and his relationship with Bo Peep and everything. Like there is like this little romance between them that you can sense has been going on for a while.
yeah,
His friendship with Slink. I mean, there's so much that I think that Tom Hanks is able
yes,
to put into Woody that just wouldn't be there if they had anybody else in that
right,
role.
right. So this is how I would describe it. I think when he's playing Woody, he personifies nostalgia. Like he is the personification. He embodies nostalgia because it's that there's I think there's multiple things going on all at the same time in Toy Story. And on the one hand, then it's like he represents that toy from our childhood that we're like, oh, that meant so much to me, and then I forgot about it. Right? That it's that nostalgia of I had the best moments in my life with that toy, and why did I forget about that toy? Right? That it's nostalgia in that sense. Uh, but then at the same time, he's also representing this nostalgia for Hollywood of a time gone by that gets replaced by the Steven Spielberg big blockbuster sci-fi movies, and then ultimately what you get with superheroes, right? That Buzz Lightyear is this new kind of Hollywood that comes out in the late 70s, really starting with like Star Wars, and then in the 80s, and then getting into
Right.
the 2000s. That it's like it is this old Hollywood versus new Hollywood, and that there's this nostalgia going, well, yeah, new Hollywood is objectively better. Like Buzz Lightyear is objectively better. He's got these buttons, he's got the kung fu like chopping motion. He's got the
Yeah.
wings, and like he's got the laser
Glow in the
thing.
dark. You glow in the dark.
Right. And it's like compared to this, like, very simplistic little cowboy figure. And it's like cowboys in comparison to spacemen, how can they possibly compete? And it's like that's what happened. The Westerns, they went away. Now they've since come back, but they've come back in part because of our nostalgia for them.
Right.
Because we like the fact that they're simpler stories with heroes who are far more grounded, where it's not outlandish, and but that's that call back to what we've lost, and that Woody is literally voicing this, saying, "But you loved me, you know." But you loved me and you forgot about me, or you're forgetting about me because as you get into this new other thing. And that it's like that's where he can both play the villain to some degree, but you understand where it's coming from because it's such a recognizable emotion of jealousy, of envy,
Yeah.
and insecurity, and going, well, I get that. I understand that too. If you've ever had a friend who starts spending time with other people instead of you, and you're like, what's happening? What's wrong with me? But what about me? Right?
Yeah.
That sincerity, that he's literally playing the role of a cowboy doll, and yet it's so real.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's honestly, it's incredible. And I really could talk about the entire Toy Story trilogy all day. I don't know
Yeah.
what to call it now that they're
Well,
coming
maybe
out with a fourth one, but
maybe we'll do that. When does Toy Story 4 come out?
I believe it comes out in June. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'll do like a Toy Story trilogy before that, and then we'll do a review
Yeah.
of Toy Story
Yeah,
4.
like a retrospective before
Yeah,
going into
yeah,
yeah.
that sounds
Sounds
good. All
good.
right. Yeah, that's a plan. We'll do that. We'll do that for sure. Um, okay, so yeah, let's not spend too much more time on Toy Story because it's just there's so much good there, but
Yes.
that's going to mean that we're not going to get to other stuff. So yeah, do you want to talk about Forrest Gump then next?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he delivered such incredible lines in that film, which sure you could say that that's the screenwriter or whatever, but everybody knows that when you're saying, one of those quotes from that movie, you have to put on the accent. You have to try to be Tom Hanks.
Right. Yes.
You gotta be like, Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates. You
Right.
never know what you're gonna get. And it's
Yeah.
just, you know, he is Forrest Gump. I think it even says that like on the box, like it doesn't
Mm,
say Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump or
right.
anything. It says
Right.
Tom Hanks is Forrest Gump. And I just think
Yeah.
that's perfect. Like it's
Yeah. They,
he you go.
so I know this because I've had at least one student, if not multiple students, who have read the book Forrest Gump, and they've done book reports and seminars on it. And man, does it sound like a bad book. Oh, it's so outlandish. It's so silly. It's so absurd. I mean, Forrest literally goes to space. He becomes an astronaut in the book. And it's like, what?
Ah.
And so when you're saying, well, maybe it's the screenwriter, and obviously the screenplay is different than the novel, but the I think that it would be so easy to screw up that role and so hard
Absolutely.
to get it right.
Yeah.
They say that even in, I don't know if you've seen Tropic Thunder.
I have not seen it. I think I've got it on my in my queue, but
Okay, I think
yeah.
it's Robert Downey Jr. in that who says, uh, like, I'm not gonna, I hesitate to use like the phrase that he uses, but basically he's saying that actors, you don't want to go too far when you're playing a disabled character, right? So he's saying otherwise audiences won't respect you anymore after that. I think he does reference Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump, where he's saying you don't want to go so far into the role where it's like you're doing such a voice of a mentally disabled person that people lose respect for you. But I mean, and like Tropic Thunder is a comedy, right? So he's
Right.
like, I mean, like this is I am quoting from the movie. This is not me saying it, but he's like,
Yeah.
you never want to go full retard, is what he
Right.
says.
Mm.
And then he's saying, I forget. He gives a couple examples of actors who make bad choices like that. They play it far too extreme. But to me, it's not that what ends up happening is you lose respect for the actor. It's that the actor has lost respect for the character. It's that
Yes.
you're then playing it. You're no longer treating this as a real person who, although they have limitations, have got genuine feelings and genuine
Mhm.
thoughts and genuine aspirations in life. And if you turn them into a caricature, if you simplify who they are, then you don't have respect for who that person is. And that never
Right.
happens in Forrest Gump. Never happens.
Yeah. No, I mean it, I, it is hard for me to, attribute some things to Tom Hanks as opposed to the screenwriter, because I don't know, how things would have been different, but it is the combination of everything in
It
that
is
film that
because
makes
film
it
is
what it is.
collaborative. Yeah.
Yeah. But when Forrest says, like, I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Yep.
Like, that I think is the perfect encapsulation of what Tom Hanks does with that role. He
Yes.
knows that, and Forrest knows that he's not smart. He's
Right.
not going around thinking like, oh, I know everything, even though
Yep.
he doesn't. He knows that he is a little lacking in that
Yes.
department, but he does still know some genuine truths about the world.
Absolutely. And I was going to bring up that line because that is one of my favorite lines in the film. That is one of, I think, the
Yeah,
best lines ever delivered. And this is where it's like you've got the screenwriting that's going on, but then it's the performance. And what is he doing with the performance? And the way he is calling after Jenny, and he knows that he can't quite he how does he compete with the world, right? And it's just
right.
how does he get to her? How when he knows that he's not like other guys and that she definitely is there's complex things going on in her mind, and for him then he's basically saying you're overthinking this, that it's like
Mhm.
you might think that I can't love you, but that's not how love works. But the way he
Right.
delivers it, I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is, right? And it's just like, and he you can see that he believes it,
Yeah.
right? You can see it in his face, you can hear it in his voice. And the
And then he turns away.
yeah,
'Cause he yeah, because
he's made
yeah,
his
it's
point.
right.
Like there's nothing more to say. And see, like for me, this is like a little bit about me personally. It's like I often don't know when to shut up.
Right.
But he's so smart. That's what I love about Forrest as a character, is that for all of his
Yes.
limitations, he is brilliant because he knows when he has said enough and that there's no need to add anything else to it. That he
Yeah,
has said
and he
everything.
knows when things have been said perfectly. Like
Yeah.
him quoting, his mama all the time
Yeah.
is perfect. Like he's not he's not just bringing these things up for no reason. He knows that, life is like a box of chocolates. He thinks I can't phrase this any better than
Yeah.
saying that. And stupid is as stupid does. He's
Yeah.
like, I can't think of a better way to say that.
Right.
So
Why
why
bother
bother?
trying? Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too, I think that is so well done in that film is when he meets little Forrest, his son, right? And
Yeah.
Forrest is there watching TV, a young Haley Joel Osment, right?
Right.
who's
Yes.
who's there watching TV, and then like when Jenny says to him, like I literally get emotional thinking about it. I've seen this movie so many times. When I first like bought it, I watched it I think every day for a month. I'm not kidding. I had I will say this, I don't care how it comes out. I literally memorized every single line in Forrest Gump. I've never done that with any other film, but I could quote that movie from beginning to end, and I was able to do that for a couple years because I
Yeah.
loved it so much
And
that
that's me with Toy Story. So it's really it's
right,
really
right.
amazing
That's funny
listen
that's
to.
like there's that fun little Tom Hanks thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so when he uh, meets Forrest Jr. and then Jenny says to him, like I named him, like he's like, what's his name? Like it's Forrest. I named him after his daddy. And then he it takes him a little bit, right? Because his processing is a little slow, and then it
like
clicks.
me and like all that, like
And
and Jenny
then,
doesn't want to say it outright. She's kind of
right,
like
he doesn't
giving
want to say,
him
yeah,
the opportunity to figure it out.
yeah, exactly, because that's love, that dynamic between them, right?
Yeah.
And that he then is struggling to get through, and he's like, Is he like me, or is he like," right? And that whole,
Yeah.
I know that I'm not able to think at the speed and at the complexity of other people. And did my son come out like that? And then, yeah, I forget exactly how she responds. I used to know it, but it was something like, oh no, he's, real smart. He's like top of his class or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he then goes into the room with Forrest, and then he's like, says something like, can I sit down? And then he sits down beside him, and they're watching TV. He's like, what are we watching? What are they watching?
Sesame Street. They're watching Bert and Ernie.
Okay, yeah. So then, yeah, they're
Yeah.
watching Sesame
Bert
Street,
and
and then,
Ernie.
right, Bert and Ernie, yeah, that's it. And then they're watching, and then at the exact same time, they both go,
Yeah.
like both heads do this, and it's just that, like, even in everything, the way he enters the room, the way he gently sits down, the way at the exact same time, I know that obviously they practice and they're, performing this, but the way they do that everything about that's not in, you could write that in a screenplay with like the action descriptions,
Yeah.
but to actually see his, um, hesitation, his gentleness in approaching Forrest, and
Yeah.
you could see just in his physical actions of
Yeah.
knowing exactly what this is and how profound this is, and at the same time, not turning it into something bigger than just, can I sit down and watch your show with you?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. That scene we could study it for hours, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, like just everything about it is so well done, and you're right, like the way that he moves, he does sort of back away at first,
yeah,
when he finds out, and he's nervous, and he's like, I don't want to be the cause of him having to go through the same thing that I went through.
yeah,
Because he was, bullied growing up and
right.
everything. Yeah, and
And
it's
Forrest didn't
it's
have a
so well
dad either, right? And so it's
right.
like he's literally trying to do something that he's never seen before. He's trying to be a father, but he doesn't even know what a father is. And with his own limitations, that it's like I look at that and I'm like, wow. And he knows exactly how to be a dad, like
Yeah.
immediately. Like doesn't barge in and just, hello, son, I'm your dad. It's none of that. It's so tender. It's just so, let
Yeah.
me come alongside you exactly where you're at in life and just sit down beside you. It's like literally, it's just, oh, it is so brilliant. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to think. Okay, one other thing with Forrest Gump, and then we'll talk about maybe one or two other films.
Sure.
So when he's telling his story sitting there on the bench, right? And I think it's after Bubba dies, which is another, like, just, oh, like if you can get through Forrest Gump without weeping, at least without having tears well up in your eyes, like you might be a psychopath.
Yeah.
um,
It's such a brilliant film.
but when he's describing Bubba and when he dies, and then Bubba's like kind of trembling and Forrest is holding him, and he's like, Forrest, I want to go home. And then Forrest says, that's all I have to say about that. And it's just like that, just because that's it. He said everything he needs to say, and it's like, whoo,
Yeah.
you don't have to say another word, because let's just feel that. Let's not be
Right.
told that. No exposition. Let's just feel what that is, and that there are no words to express what you just went through.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, he does say, I forget whether it's right then, or I think it might come back later, where he says, like, you know, Bubba was going to be a shrimp boat captain, but instead he died right there in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I think
this
you're
film
right
is
there.
so
Yeah.
so well done.
So okay, can we move on?
Yeah, no, we don't have a lot of time left.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, overall, Tom Hanks's career, his body of work is so wide-ranging. It's incredible to see all the different performances that he has given. And some of the other standouts for me would probably be I'd say in the Terminal, I think he does a phenomenal job in that.
Mhm.
Um, You've Got Mail always gets me. I've got a little soft spot for romantic comedies, but yeah, I would say that those two would be like the third and fourth, so to speak. You know, Toy
Okay.
Story, the Toy Story series,
Yeah.
then Forrest Gump, then yeah, then those two.
Hmm. So, okay, can we go for maybe 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, the other, like, I want to talk about at least two and a half more.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
one of them would be Castaway. And
Oh yes. Yeah.
I mean,
It's
he
just him.
it's literally he carries the film, and I don't mean he carries the film in that the other actors are not that important, as in there are no other actors for
Right.
90 something percent of the film. It is just him on an island.
Yeah.
But his relationship with Wilson, like, I mean,
Oh, when
literally,
Wilson. When
okay,
Wilson is.
just floating away, and he's just reaching towards it, Wilson, right? And it's just
Yeah.
like, I'm saying, watch Avengers Infinity War. Oh, this is going to be the most emotional thing ever. We're going to kill off this hero and this hero and this hero and this hero. I didn't care at all. Like, I wasn't moved in any way. I mean, like a tiny bit, but not like what people think. Nothing in comparison to the attachment I had to that volleyball.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, it is incredible because he did establish a friendship with this
yep,
volleyball and conveyed that
yes,
friendship to all of us, to the
yeah,
audience. And it is something where, I mean, specifically with Infinity War, uh, with Spider-Man, Peter Parker
yeah,
turning to dust, and it's like, okay, yeah, I get that I'm supposed to be sad here, and I don't know, maybe this, makes me weird for not being more emotionally moved by it, but it was just kind of like, well, a few things. One, I know that he's going to come back. Uh, Two, I I don't know, like it's you feel more anger in Robert Downey Jr.'s performance
mm,
than sorrow. You know, he's
yeah,
not sad that
right,
Peter is gone. He's angry at Thanos for
yep,
causing this.
yeah,
Um, yeah, overall, like, and I'm not saying that, Tony Stark should have been going, Peter, but
no, but how
the way
many?
that Tom Hanks is able to, convey that sense of loss with
Yeah,
Wilson is
yeah, that
incredible.
it is an absolute tragedy that you're witnessing on screen, an absolute
Yes.
tragedy. And the thing is that I'm trying to understand of how is it that Tom Hanks does that? How does he play that scene, and really his performance throughout the film, where it doesn't come across as silly or over the top, where we roll our eyes? I mean, I don't. I mean, if you're looking,
And
or
he's not pandering or
no,
anything. Like
no. I
it's
mean,
not, this is for the audience. Like
no.
you are watching it and you do, like, I feel like anytime that you watch Tom Hanks, you forget you're watching a film.
Yeah.
You are just so sucked into it. You're like, yes, I'm watching a person's life.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's probably why he's been so successful in playing uh, real people.
That
Because,
level of sincerity, like I said, I think
yeah,
that's the characteristic. It's that he is
yeah,
able to be sincere when so few people seem to be capable of pulling off sincerity.
yes. I mean, honestly, thinking back on him saying, screaming Wilson, then it, that delivery has always reminded me of a particular scene in Toy Story,
Mm,
which seems very odd or whatever, but it's when when he's trying to convince all the toys at Andy's house that, oh no, me and Buzz are best friends now, even though Buzz is sitting down on the floor like being miserable, and then they throw over the Christmas lights so that they'll be able to come back across.
right.
And then, they find out that, oh, Buzz is hurt and you murdered him and everything. That's
Right.
Potato Head that's saying that,
Right.
murderer, you murderer.
Right. Right. Right.
And then, and so then they pull the Christmas lights back, and everybody leaves and it starts raining, and then you see Slinky look back over at Woody, and Woody is going, Slink, Slink, no, Slink, oh! And you do get this sense of like they've been friends forever, and he
Yeah.
feels betrayed by
Yeah.
Slinky, and there's so much emotion that's carried by these computer generated
Yeah.
characters, like it's
That he's
it's
just using.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, just to kind of contrast this with a couple other examples of people, of other actors trying to, it's not exactly the same emotion with these, but trying to convey tragedy by screaming something. I mean, like, you could, like, look at, like, Shatner going, Con! Right? Right? And or I think even closer to this though, of like just such a failure, is Star Wars Episode 3 with Darth Vader. No.
Yeah.
When he
No, like
right?
falls on his knees practically.
Yeah,
Like,
if that scene was silent, I think it could have been okay. But hearing
yeah,
him go say no, but it's like, but that literally, I don't know what the percentage would be, but literally there has got to be a so many people, millions of people who laughed or rolled their eyes during those moments.
yeah,
But I think there are very, very few people who would look at Tom Hanks reaching, straining towards the volleyball as it floats away, screaming Wilson, who roll their eyes or laugh. Like,
yeah. No,
and
I
it's
can't
a
imagine.
similar thing though of just screaming and reaching out, and it's
Yeah,
um
yeah.
okay. So okay.
No offense, James Earl Jones.
Right. Well, that's no, I mean, like, in part that's also directing and like
Yeah,
what comes before and all of that. I'm just saying that it's interesting that you could have a similar attempt, a similar performance, but it doesn't work for different reasons, but that
yeah,
it works in Castaway.
yeah.
Um, so one film, I will be very brief on this. If I could encourage anybody to see a Tom Hanks movie that they have not seen, maybe it is just a weird little thing for me, but Joe versus the Volcano is such a fun movie. It's, I think it's Meg Ryan. It is. So it is a bit of a romantic comedy.
Okay.
Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, right? Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Right? And the description is, when a hypochondriac learns that he is dying, he accepts an offer to throw himself in a volcano at a tropical island, and along the way there learns to truly live. And it is it's a little off kilter, the entire movie. There's a little bit of surrealism to it. I mean, not exactly, but there's it's stylized to some degree.
Okay.
And it is just such a fun thing of seeing him believe that he only has this short time to live, and that what comes out of that is really, it's both funny and kind of romantic and dramatic, and it's just it's great, and I don't know why so few people know about it. because I really enjoy it. I've seen it multiple times. Joe versus the Volcano. That'd be the one that I would suggest. 1990 is when it came out.
Okay.
Um, and then this is my half one. I said I wanted to talk about like a movie and a half. And so the other thing too is it is so worth watching the scene from the Money Pit where I think it's when the stairs eventually collapse and then he just starts hysterically laughing about it. I think it's when the stairs collapse and it just the laughter goes on for a while and it doesn't end up being slapstick. I don't know how that movie, as much as there is some slapstick comedy in that movie, The Money Pit, like you still buy the sincerity. Like I think most people have had a laughing fit that comes out in absolute hysterics. You look like a hysterical person, and it's like, and he pulls it off when he does it. Just YouTube that Tom Hanks laughing The Money Pit. I'm sure you will find results, and it is so crazy to watch him just going through the laughter that just never seems to end.
No, because it's true because we all have kind of had that. Well, maybe not everybody, but people have had that. Like that's a genuine reaction to something just getting so terrible that you just have to laugh at yourself. Like
that's right. You have no choice. It's you laugh or you cry. But when it comes out as laughter, and it does kind of come out in these hysterics of just like, it's a strange human emotion that shows up so rarely. But when when it does show up, it's like it is real.
Yes.
When that happens, and he actually conveys that on screen, and I've seen that like very few times. I don't know if I've ever seen it better of just those hysterics that he captures, where it doesn't seem like he's acting. It just seems like, yep, this man in this film absolutely has lost it.
Right. Yeah. I would like to also shout out That Thing You Do. It's I believe it was the first film that he directed, and he does also play a role in it. He's not one of the leads in it, but I love the music industry, and seeing this group of one-hit wonders. Go through all this. I just think that he does a fantastic job, and with the one song that keeps playing over and over again, and yet never gets tiring.
Right.
It really is. The band gets tired of it, but you don't.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I am very familiar with That Thing You Do, and it is just one of those ones that I'm like, I just haven't gotten around to it, which is crazy. That happens, right? You're just like, how have I not seen that? But yeah, that's one of the ones I have not actually seen, but I'm very familiar. I remember all of the trailers on TV when it first came out and people talking about it. I remember it very well. For a film that I haven't seen, I really know it.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that was his first feature length the first time he directed a feature length film. And so he had done a couple other like little TV episodes here and there and shorts, but yeah, that was his first feature as a director.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, we'll just leave it off there because I'm trying to keep this a reasonable length, and I know there's just so much more that we can get to, and so potentially we'll end up having Tom Hanks Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, 17. Who knows? Yeah, exactly. Because there's just, I mean, we barely scratched the surface of his career, but I think that was a fun overview at the beginning of all the different stuff that he's done and trying to find a through line of what is it that defines him as an actor? How is he able to accomplish as much as he has?
I'd also just like to say I am very excited for what we are planning for the next episode as well.
Excitement is one word.
I feel like it might be a longer episode, but yeah, no, and we may have a special guest for that.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean we joke about having very special sponsors, but we really are going to have an actual like special guest on the next episode.
Yeah,
So,
legitimately. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so that's tantalizing, right? Tempting
Yes.
you to watch the next one. Okay,
Right.
well,
So,
thank
thanks
you
for
so much for
watching.
watching. All right, bye.
Bye.
Ignore the bell, people. We're gonna keep going. We're still ignoring it. Don't worry. I don't know what that. I think that's the fire drill. All right, we're gonna go home. Yeah. All right, we're done.